Hi, this is Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government, here with one of, if not my favorite member of Congress, Paul Gosar from Arizona. Representative Gosar has been probably the strongest advocate of limited government because he doesn't only advocate, he also sits and fights and gets stuff done legislatively. For those of you who care about such things, if you think local zoning, for instance, is something that localities should do, well, Paul Gosar is the guy who made sure that the Obama administration and later Trump administration too did not proceed with policies that would in fact have the federal government take over local zoning. You don't hear about this kind of stuff, but this is the hard work that gets done by conservatives like Paul Gosar, where he just bears down and has his staff work really hard, and he uses every bit of clout he has to make certain that we limit government and we win. We win issues that people aren't talking about, but if we didn't win, they would really be talking about, say, how the heck did that happen? This guy, Paul Gosar, is the guy who stopped the federal takeover of zoning. There's so many other examples of things that we've worked on together where he has been at the forefront, and stuff on the resources end where he has been instrumental in maintaining private property rights and use of federal properties for resource development. So America, this guy is one of the great heroes of America, and a lot of people don't even know who he is, which hopefully today will help them get to know you a little bit better. Welcome to the show, Representative Paul Gosar.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate being on.
Well, my pleasure, and you know that my admiration for what you do goes well beyond what I can express. But you had an election. You had a challenge in a primary. You got a district that had about 75,000 more Republicans in it than you'd represented before. So you were introducing yourself to some people. And you worked really hard like you always do. So what are you hearing? What did you hear in Arizona? And congratulations, you won with well over 60% of the vote. So congratulations on that. But what did you hear on the campaign trail?
Well, thank you, Rick, for the congratulations. Well, what we heard is that America wants fighters. They may not agree with you on everything, but the fact that you're standing up for them, that's what they want, particularly in this time that we find ourselves, a very unusual time where it seems like the rule of law has been cast aside and big government is trying to flex its muscles and take over everything. So what we heard is thank you very much for fighting. You've taken a lot of hits, but we appreciate it.
Wow. And I think that's a great testimony to your staff who basically got the word out to people about what you were doing, because we know that you became a target of some of the left, pretty aggressively of the left, trying to make it so you were minimized, and your impact was minimized. But clearly the people back home understand that when you're landing punches, the other side does everything they can to try to make it lessen the blows, and so they attack you personally and professionally. So that's.
Well, the thing about it is my mom always taught me, Rick, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. So I think we live by that adage. If they got to go to name calling, they don't have much against you. Yeah,
that's 100% correct. It's we have a Senate race. Obviously, I think you were unopposed in your congressional race. Is that correct? So you were elected.
I had three challengers in my congressional race, and so we did a pretty darn good job in getting a message out and letting people find out who we were. And from that standpoint, we also had a Senate race here in the state. That was a crowded field. There were 5 really good candidates, and Blake Masters came out on the victor side on that one.
Well, yeah, and it's going to create an interesting control of the Senate may run through Arizona, which make it a pretty late night for those of us on the East Coast. But it's we see Senator Mark Kelly, the Democrat, who has distinguished himself from the other senator from Arizona, Kirsten Sinema, and that he hasn't seen a Biden-Obama policy that he hasn't embraced and run toward, whereas Sinema's been a little bit more in the tried to play a little more in the center. still liberal, very liberal, but she's at least been unwilling to take down the filibuster and the like. So, is Mark Kelly too liberal for Arizona, or do people even know that he's that liberal?
Well, I think the media does a lot of coverage for him, Rick. He gets that kind of a scapegoat aspect to his outlook. But it's going to catch up with him, and people want him gone. This is a guy that, as you said earlier, embraces every policy. He doesn't bark, he doesn't bite, he just goes along with the status quo. Kirsten Sinema has been one of those people, like you said, who stopped the filibuster, which could have been catastrophic for us, for this country. So I think it's going to be a hard-fought race. They're already starting to bludgeon Blake. He's very conservative. He believes in life. He believes in limited government. So it's going to be an interesting take to see where America wants to go.
Yeah, and I think Arizona is one of those states where I don't think people back east understand, but Arizona has a lot of people who come from other places. And, my sister lives in your district now in Bullhead City. I think she's introduced herself to you and perhaps peppered you with the questions that only somebody who is my sister would know. But you've got but yeah, there's people from all over the country who retire in Arizona, who come to Arizona because of the protection of private property, the freedom aspect, the capacity you can carry a gun, just the basic idea that you're able to live a free life. And so, and yet, let's face it, you have two Democrat U.S. senators right now.
Yeah,
who would have thought it? Barry Goldwater State has two Democrat senators. And Joe Biden, when they got done counting every ballot they could find, ended up winning the state as well. So we have and your Secretary of State was a Democrat. So you've got, so there's how do we pull together the McCain Republicans and the traditional conservatives and the Trump Republicans who might not be traditional conservatives? How do we pull everything together there in Arizona to try to put together a coalition that wins in November? Is there any secret to the sauce?
I think the secret to the sauce, Rick, is to realize that it's our country, that we need to love our country more than we hate somebody else personally. That's the biggest key here is that what do you want to leave your legacy to be? Do you want to leave the country as a socialist, Marxist, socialist country? Or do you want to leave it better than we found it? Do you want limited government or do you want big government? Do you want to return to states' rights or do you want to have a heavy hand of the federal government as well? So I think that's what the case is here, is that you got to love your country more than you hate an individual. And you can say that a lot about Donald Trump. You may not like his attitude, but what the man did, he straightened out this country. We had a fabulous economy. We were downsizing the size of the government, although our budgets were definitely out of curtail. But I mean, we were headed in the right direction, empowering states, empowering people. And we've gone completely backwards on that. So when you think about him, this latest escapade where they raided Mar-a-Lago, they have done this now for 6 years, Rick, over 6 years against this man, and they have found absolutely nothing. And yet they continue this pursuit. Because they're afraid that this guy's going to get back in and he's going to be detrimental to the bureaucratic state.
I have to tell you, the single most compelling argument for Donald Trump is they broke his attorney-client privilege with Michael Cohen, and they went and raided all the files in his private attorney, and they got nothing. They found out Michael Cohen was running illegal taxi cab licenses, so Michael Cohen went to jail. But it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. So all this assumption that he was a dirty developer who was dealing with all these people and had all these secrets, it wasn't true. They have to raid. They go through 4 years of intensive investigation with top toughest investigators that the Democrats have, that the FBI has, and you didn't, and they got nothing. And and it came down. The whole Russiagate came down to trying to entrap him into a charge of obstructing justice, which is almost impossible to mount a defense and not obstruct justice. And yet he managed to not obstruct justice. And so now they're raiding Mar-a-Lago in the hope they'll find something in Melania's closet. I mean, it is insane. But he's probably the most honest politician in America's history.
Well, I mean, it definitely the scrutiny that he's gone through. Nobody's gone through the scrutiny that he has, and weathered it and come out squeaky clean. So from that standpoint, I admire the man. I want to see the affidavit being put out so that we find out what they were fishing for. And now we got to get back to the power of the purse, Rick, and we need to unfund some of these institutions. Why can't the states take some of the load from the FBI? We need to return to equal application of the law. It's not been present at all. You saw Hillary Clinton erase 30,000 classified emails. You saw the Russiagate. All this is made up, and yet we still see them pursuing this man. So from that standpoint, I think we got to get back to loving this country, getting back to believing in a Constitution. Because if you don't believe in the Constitution and you don't have both sides not only approving of it, but embracing the rule of law that it conforms to it, you have nothing. You have just a piece of paper. So we got to get back to the vote. We got to get back to that belief that this country is worth every dime and an ounce of energy to get back to the way we were.
I couldn't agree more. I wanted to talk to you about a piece of legislation that you're looking at filing, an issue that I think a lot of people don't think much about until they get a little bit older. But, everybody out there who works for a living knows there's this FICA fella who takes a bunch of their money every paycheck, this depositing into your bank account, auto deposit kind of makes it so we don't see the FICA fella as much on our check, but we get money withdrawn every paycheck for Social Security, Medicare, and the like. And you noticed something about that Social Security benefits, which come from money that you had taken out and withheld from your use for 30, 40, 50 years sometimes. Those Social Security benefits are taxed just the same as if they'd been earned income. And you're kind of checking out and trying to figure out if there's something that might be done about that. Tell me what you're trying to do and what it looks like.
So it's kind of a whole apparatus looking at this, Rick, kind of a wholesale. First of all, we saw Social Security never was contemplated to look at inflation, so that the benefit you got in 1983 is not the same benefit adding inflation to the benefit you get today. So that's one of the reasons why we put forward no taxation for Social Security benefits. Mm-hmm. And the second piece that we wanted to do was, why not allow people to have extra income? Now, currently, there is this rule that if you're below retirement age, for every dollar that you make over the allowed amount, they take one out of every $2 in tax, a 50% tax. If you're retirement age, they'll take one of three. Well, why should that be if you're trying to help out yourself by having a second job? Why does it hurt? You've put away these benefits. They should be there for you for, like as you said, for 30 to 40 years you put away. We also got to go back and start looking at programs that don't address or give maybe employers an undue advantage. For example, one of them I bring up on the immigration front that came from the Bush administration is called the OPT program, the Optional Practical Training Program. This incentivizes big companies to hire foreign workers at a much reduced rate. It also gives those employers a 15.5% discount. That's the matching withholding money from the employer to yours is taken out of your check. So what happens is these people will be eligible for this Social Security and Medicare, but they're not paying anywhere near what should be being paid. It's like double dipping.
Right.
But we've got to really got to get to the core issue of all these different aspects. And it takes some prodding and some push and a dog going after a bone to make sure that people get what they were promised.
I will tell you, one of the challenges in DC, as you know, is that the operating assumption, sometimes of both the left and the right, is that all the money's theirs, and people should be grateful for whatever they're allowed to keep. But I think I want to poke around a little bit on just this, on the Social Security, the paying taxes on the Social Security, because as well as the second part about limiting the being able to get your full Social Security benefit, whatever it's entitled to at 62 or 66 or 72 or whatever, and not have to pay taxes or have it diminished based upon how much money you earn. We have a labor shortage problem. We have a skilled labor shortage problem. Those systems were devised at a time when we had plenty of workers, and they were attempting to get older people to leave the system to make room for younger people. Today, we have a shortfall of people working in the system as skilled laborers and the like. And so whether it means you're in computers, you're a manager, or you're working even a cash register, we have a need for people at all levels of employment. And the Social Security rules right now force people who are 62, who need to take Social Security, to say, I can't make more than like $18,000, or else I've cost myself my entire Social Security check. And it's insane because it has the exact opposite incentive than what our current workforce demands. And so I think what you're doing on this is the exact right answer to help solve the fact that we have baby boomers retiring and find themselves saying, it's stupid for me to go back into the workforce because it costs me money.
It costs me more than I actually benefit. You're exactly right.
So this is so while being a benefit and being morally correct, it also has the benefit of being economically correct in terms of helping people solve the biggest problem we have right now in terms of our labor force. And that is we are 500,000 people shy of what our labor force was on February of 2020. 500,000 people short. Now the actual population has gone up by over 4.5 million people in that time frame. So this isn't a matter of our population shrinking. It's a matter of the people in the workforce, the number of people in the workforce shrinking. And that's because baby boomers retire and we haven't had replacement population on the back end. Well, folks, perhaps this idea of forcing baby boomers to retire is no longer valid. And by changing these laws you're talking about, we create the incentive for employers to take action, and we create the incentive for baby boomers to stay in the workforce and still be able to collect Social Security. And in that way, we provide a five-year kind of stopgap of where we are able to replace population and kind of get over this problem.
Absolutely right. The institutional knowledge, that buildup over the years can't be replaced by somebody that just comes out of school. They're street smart and there's book smart. And we want to keep the very best of people in that workforce. And if you want to work, if you don't want to work, that's fine too. But if you want to work, which most people do, they want to keep active. An active body actually seems to be more beneficial to a community and to yourself. And so there should be no reason that the government limits you on that aspect. And so from that standpoint, we're really trying to work this out. It's been painstaking to tell you because working with Ledge Council, Rick, has been just like a nightmare, because it seems like there's always a snag that they reach instead of trying to give us a product. So we are pushing. That's kind of what we're known for.
That's kind of one of the things that people don't realize, that to get legislation filed, you've got legislative council and they kind of create their own, they have a lot of questions that they want to ask and say, well, and a lot of that's policy driven. It gets it somewhat more challenging. Whereas if you want to put through a 1,500 page bill that's got that spends $1.5 trillion, they'll just sign off on anything. But you want to do a simple reform of the law that's 4 pages long, it suddenly becomes a major hassle point because, oh my gosh, that's actual change. That's actually something that makes a difference. But folks, I want you to understand this. This is really important. There are few congressmen who actually look at big problems and try to create solutions, simple solutions to big problems. And because what most people do is they say, oh, government's got to fix the problem. And so you make it more complicated, you add on. And what Paul Gosar does, and a cadre of other members of Congress, but specifically Paul Gosar, is extraordinary at saying, how do we make it, how did government screw it up? And how do we get them out of the way? And that, my friends, is why he has been our legislator of the year. You're our first legislator of the year. And you have been a person who I personally have been proud to support on legislative initiatives. I almost don't even have to look at them because I know if they come out of your shop, they are going to be limited government and they're going to be smart and they're going to be doable. And so he is the guy who, if you're looking around and you're saying, I need to support, I want to find some good guys to support, some good guys to support their campaigns, to make it so they can move along. The challenge of being a guy who does what he does is, special interests don't really care because that's not what they're getting paid to do. They're getting paid to get a tax break somewhere for their company, a credit. They're getting paid to get a grant from some government agency or to create money that can flow through their company, or get a contract. So that's what the DC swamp does, is that for corporations. And as a result, that's not what Paul Gosar does. So they don't care about Paul Gosar. So, but you should. So Paul, tell us, how would people, if they want to find out more about your campaign and how to support you and what you're doing, how would they go about doing that?
They can reach our Facebook page at Gosar for Congress. And it's very simple. We're very accessible. We get out. We're known for talking to people. We hit the sidewalks and the streets, Rick, throughout our district. We ask people what's going on, what's their problems, and what is the federal nexus. If there's a federal component to it, we're happy to try to help and try to leverage those types of aspects. So we deliver on those. But if there's stuff that has to be done with the state, we make sure the state gets it back. That's the power of our system. The 10th Amendment is very strong. We're a community of states, and we gave the limited powers to the federal government. We, the people, and the states, and that's how we have to return. So Gosar for Congress. We'd love to have your support, and we'd love to have your ideas equally.
Gosar for Congress. I can't recommend. If you people ask me who's the one person in Congress, they force me to single out a single individual in Congress. A lot of people. There's a lot of great guys, okay, and women. There's a lot of people who I like. But I would tell you right now that as somebody who is the innovator, the person who's willing to jump in and come up with solutions and not just react, but come up with solutions, and drive solutions. There's nobody in Congress who's better than Paul Gosar. So support Paul Gosar for Congress. It's Gosar for Congress. Is that .com or .org or
.com?
Okay, Gosar for Congress, and just go there. And if you're so inclined, leave a remark, but if you can, leave a check, because it's every bit helps. And we are, and one thing we have to do in this world is we have to support those who are fighting for freedom. And if we're not, and that's just one of those things that if we're not willing to do that, then, what's the point? So let's support the people who fight for freedom. Gosar for Congress. I personally can tell you there's nobody in Congress who's doing more for our individual liberties than this man who I'm talking to right now. And with that, Congressman Gosar, thank you very much for your time.
Rick, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
You're a great man. Thank you.